We're good, right? Welcome, everyone, to the Chenrezig Tibetan Buddhist Center live Zoom. Namgyal Khensur Geshe Lharampa. Today we'll be going over a couple of stanzas of Lama Tsongkhapa's Source of All My Good. And just wanted to say thank you all for attending. And I rejoice in the fact that we continue to have the opportunity to receive transmissions and teachings from one of the greatest lamas who has ever lived, who is a true expression of renunciation and shows us every day how we would engage in the path if we wanted to become a Buddha more than anything else in the whole world. So let's get started with the Heart Sutra. The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard, once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha of monks and a great gathering of the Sangha of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the Samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way. He saw the five skandhas to be empty of nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita? Addressed in this way, noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way. Seeing the five skandhas to be empty of nature, form is emptiness. Emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity and no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no I, dhatu, up to no mind, dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind consciousness, dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance, up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the Bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the three times by means of Prajnaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra of Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra that calms all suffering should be known as truth. Since there is no deception, the Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way: Te ata om gate gate paragate parasangate buddhiso. Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that Samadhi and praised noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice the profound Prajnaparamita, just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice when the Blessed One had said this. Venerable Shariputra and noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Ngala yubene yo lambane muje dojo mai dolo yen ruba bolo mai bujen dezo mando dola yazelo. Sandara Samara me dea da gate gate paragate parasangate bodezo Baba Ganjo Zani Dai de me doji she Abo doji me bo doji shewa doji Dagi baji me Zani Janinga yeso Giri no nya je jo je wa no me do no be je no de wa no no mo do ni mo no no nyo ji da ji de did you bring a drink in? Thank you. So, the fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. And a paper towel. Holy Lamas high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds and knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready, a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Gamni Radayami. Nanje. Jana Yi Janam La Janyo Badu Dani Jazu Yi Dagi Jinye Jibe Zananye Jala Benji Zanye Jubajo Zanye Janan Yi Janam La Janyo Badu Dani Jazu Yi Dagi Jinye Jibe Zananye Jola Benji Zanye Jubajo Jodan Zaji Jonan La Yanju Badu Dani Yazu Dagi Jinye Jibe Zananye Jola Benji Zanye Jubajo. Is this for him? Okay, so we will get started now with a couple stanzas of the source of all my good, and then we'll have time for any questions that people may have, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we will just go over, we'll read through it very quickly in English up to where we're going to start the commentary today. The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him or her in the proper way is the very root of the path. And grant me then to serve and follow him or her with all my strength and reverence. So here again, we have the Guru devotion, reliance upon a spiritual teacher, the topics in the Lamrim. Bless me first to realize that this excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first thus to recall the death that will destroy me soon, and help me find sure knowledge that after I have died, the things I've done. Can we get the dogs out of here? The white or black, and what those deeds will bring to me follow always close behind, as certain as my shadow. Maybe all right. Grant me then to ever be careful to stop the slightest wrongs of the many wrongs we do, and try to carry out instead each and every good of the many that we may. Bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They cannot be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest care to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice. They are the root of Buddha's teaching. I have slipped and fallen into the sea of this suffering life. Bless me to see that every living being, everyone my own mother, has fallen into. Grant me then to practice the wish for enlightenment, to take on myself the task of freeing them all. Bless me to see clearly that the wish itself is not enough, for if I am not well trained in the three moralities, I cannot become a Buddha. Grant me then a fierce resolve to master the Bodhisattva's vows. Grant that I may quickly gain the path where quietude and insight join together, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects, the other which analyzes the perfect meaning in the correct way. So this is where we're going to begin today. So the last session, we went over this stanza, which we went over the different interpretations of it. and understanding the insight part of wisdom, and the quietude, the single-pointed concentration, the single-pointed focus that then is joined together with insight, that one is looking for a union of. And if we look at it from the perspective of the 5 paths, we're looking for a union of calm abiding and special insight at the path of preparation, which has as its object of observation emptiness. So you could interpret this as, may I have this realization that comes about from a union and calm abiding and special insight, and that object which my mind is focused on solely is the emptiness. But also when we look at this, Rinpoche said that when we Yandat Dun just means really understanding very clearly something. So it's saying that the special insight allows you to have a very clear understanding, and the calm abiding makes it so you're not focusing on anything but the object of observation that's chosen. So it says, one which quiets my mind from being distracted to wrong objects. So quietude, single-pointed concentration, just is what allows you to focus on one object only and not be distracted. And the other, which analyzes the perfect meaning, the wisdom gets that clarity of the meaning of something. And if we look at it in terms of emptiness, when those two unite and you achieve this inferential valid cognition of emptiness, you're at the stages, the higher stages of the path of preparation, where you go through heat, peak, patience, and the last mundane state. And that last mundane state is the last stage you remain in as an ordinary being. The next step is to see emptiness directly and become an Arya. So anyway, let's begin now with this. The Tomo Lanjan. Less so. Less so. So here, Lama Tsongkhapa is stating in this next stanza, grant that once I've practiced well the paths that are shared and become a vessel that is worthy, I enter with perfect ease the way of the diamond, highest of all ways, holiest door, to come inside. So here, Lama Tsongkhapa is stating, once you've practiced the paths that are shared in common, the teachings that are shared in common with beings of small capacity, the teachings that are shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and the teachings for beings of great capacity related to the perfection vehicle, at that point, those common paths have been practiced and set up a foundation for the highest of all ways, Tantrayana. So it's saying once you practice well these common paths, then you have the perfect foundation to go into the holiest door of Tantrayana. The Jipo Chungo Dan Din Dan, the Parshin Chenbo, Lobsang Shena, Tomo Lobsang Shena, then Ngalang, Chasang. Then the Jipo Chungo, that's Larona. So when we look at the topics of the teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity, we would see the topics of death and impermanence, and karma and its results. Then Jipo Din. Jipo Jin, that's Larona. Jipo Chungo Lason, the Cheo Matapa. The Juju Ale. And then the practice, when we see what the teaching shared in common with beings of medium capacity refer to, we can see that the 16 attributes of the Four Noble Truths, the Denje Juju, Denji Juju. So the 16 attributes of the Four Noble Truths, as well as the practice of the 3 highest higher trainings, then Jipo Chenbo, the Nga Mayimba Tomo, Nga Mayimba Tomo, Jipo Chenbo Guardian. So here, when we look at the practices of the great capacity, here we would say that these are great compassion and the mind that aspires to enlightenment, and the practice of the 6 perfections. These would be the practice of the perfection path that would be in common with the Tantrayana path. So we see the teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity, and we see why they are called shared in common now. The teaching shared in common with beings of medium capacity, and the teachings for beings of great capacity, particularly the perfection vehicle, once I've practiced these well and become a suitable vessel. So Tantrayana is the resultant vehicle, and once you're a suitable vessel, that can be an appropriate basis for Tantrayana as a result of these paths that are shared in common, then practice Tantra. So it's saying, so you see, as Westerners, as an aside, we a lot of times go first to Tantra. Rinpoche always says that we should always touch Tantrayana because it's so rare. But if we aren't focused right here, as Lama Tsongkhapa says, on the paths well shared, then we're really not setting the foundation, and we're not a vessel that is worthy. And if we're not a vessel that is worthy, then we're not really practicing it in a way that is appropriate according to the great masters. Okay, then that's it. The Jegare. The Gare, Tambo Gare, somewhere. The Zumodu no Drubi. Just the Tangaja the model. Just Chujan, Chujan. Children to model Je. Tansi do what I was on this. No, just so let me understand that the basis that gives me, so now it says, bless me to know with genuine certainty that when I've entered thus, the cause that gives me both the high attainments is to keep my pledges and my vows most pure. Bless me then to always to keep them, even if it costs my life. So here we need to understand that the basis of Tantrayana is ethical behavior. So it's necessary because at this point, if we're practicing Tantrayana, and if specifically highest yoga tantra, we'll say, if we've entered into a highest yoga tantra mandala, at that point, ideally we have an individual liberation vow, a bodhisattva vow, and a tantric vow. So we have the individual liberation vows. There are the 7 lifetime vows that we speak of. The 2 of the layperson, 2 of the novice, 1 probationary nun, and the 2 of the fully ordained monk and nun vows. And then we see the, we're running out of power. And then we see the vows of the bodhisattva, the 18 root and the 46 secondary, and then the tantric vows, the highest yoga tantric vows, which will, if you don't have them, we won't speak of them. So then we keep them because we know it's the basis of everything, even if it costs our lives, because we know that that's what's most important for our practice. Okay, this one.
That's all.
Okay, so yeah, Rinpoche said we'll end there, and then we'll have time for question and answer. If it suddenly cuts out, I didn't realize that. I think Rinpoche, we were maybe looking at something, but. Here, let me go down to the smaller view. I think there's a way to do that. Yeah, and then it doesn't take as much battery. Okay, questions and answer. Let's see if we have any questions. I'll wait a moment just to see if any questions come up because I kind of just abruptly. Hey, Charlene, how are you? Hi, Adrian.
You did it, man.
Adrian Jemen, Tashidale Las. The Lapa, Tashidale. All right. So right before class, like maybe 10 minutes before, I broke my pinky toe. I think it's like black and swollen up. So I almost said I can't do it, and then I decided that that's silly. So it's just a pinky toe, right? Okay, could even the smallest of generosity be dedicated? Anything of virtue can and should be dedicated. The Coleman boy, the Gewa Chunchun, the Jimbadan, Gewa chun chun, Hua Dana Yabudwe.
Ah.
The Gewa Sa,
Yeah.
and Gewa chun chun, the Jimba Tsuchun, the Jimba, the chun chun Dana, Hua Yabudwe.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, so it's very good. Garshene Rinpoche. More Garshene Kichambudu.
Wow. Cheta dole
Yes, sir.
cheta jasu chena chuti tar jasu magomba temese.
Yes, sir.
Teri chanchu yang gowa yang chanchu mato bat temese.
Yes, sir.
Saji gomo tu jo mo bayina. And saji gomo mato jibado gowa de level sel males.
Yes, sir. So Rinpoche said we can go to the sutras where we find a statement that says that just like a drop of water that's put into the ocean isn't extinguished until the whole ocean is. Likewise, a virtue that's dedicated towards enlightenment is not until it becomes the creation of that enlightenment. It's something to that effect. It becomes the cause for that enlightenment. It stays until that enlightenment, which it causes, is part of enlightenment's causes, is produced. Yes, any amount of virtue that we create, generosity, I think is what you were saying, or just virtue generally, maybe, should be dedicated to, depending on our goals. If we are a small scope practitioner dedicated to extinguishing the lower realms, if we are a have medium scope aspirations, then extinguishing rebirth and being liberated. And then if we're great scope aspirations or practitioner, then we want to dedicated to becoming a Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. So Rinpoche says that's the best dedication. But we do study the Lam Rim, and it says there are beings of three capacities. So we should understand that there would be three dedications there, because their goals may not be the same as what a great capacity goal practitioner may be. Then the Nyawa dan Yida dan the Dendru Pong. Then the Jibu Din, Huan Gare, Tarpa, Yanale Depa. The last. So I was just saying to what I said. I forgot some of my Tibetan in the midst of something new. Karen, might we be looking at a new book to study in the future? Yes, we're going to be doing actually transmissions of some stuff. We're just trying to get through some health things that are going on right now. But we definitely do have a desire to go into some more texts. But a lot of it's going to be transmissions. And what a transmission is where Rinpoche literally takes a text that was read to him by his teacher in Tibetan and reads it to us in Tibetan. And it gives us a special blessing to be able to, in the future, connect with it, be able to study it easier, and so forth. So that's what the meaning of transmission is in this case. So Rinpoche has agreed to do the Abhisama Alamkara. It was asked about, Katie, you asked about that last week. Rinpoche will be giving the transmission. That is among one of the 5 books, so I don't know if it'll be done in that order. We're still talking about the 5 books. We're definitely doing at least 3 of them, which the Abhisama Alamkara is contained within. So just stay tuned. We haven't made any major announcements just because we have some ongoing changes in health treatments that are going on. So committing to anything right now wouldn't be prudent, just in terms of timing and if there's preparation time, etc. And yes, okay, hi, it's Charlene. What are the vows you talked about and how must I take them? So there's something that the Susur Tarpa Dumba, the Chua Sutar Dumba, the Kandrelan, the Kon Genye.
Sutar Dumba Tamashu Genye, the Nyene to Sumarba. Then Golo Pame Dumba.
That's a
Gazu Pame Dumba, Golo Mai Dumba. What is Sutar Sutar Dumba?
Then the Adrian Jemen, then Genye Mai Dumba Guna, the Land Tudo. Okay, so when we look at the vows, I talked about different sets of vows. there's an individual liberation vow. An individual liberation vow is a set of vows. There's actually technically 8. One is a 24-hour vow that a male or female can take. It's just a 24-hour vow that's very symbolic and very similar to renunciation vows, where you would abstain from specific things that a monastic would abstain from. So then you have that vow. That's only for a 24-hour period. That's not a lifetime vow. So the vows that you take for a lifetime, there's 7 categories. There's 2 for lay people, a male and female. They're identical vows, abstaining from killing, stealing, lying, adultery, and alcohol, intoxicants. So those are the 5 lifetime lay vows. And a male or female can take them. And I asked Rinpoche, would you give them to someone? And specifically you, Charlene, because that's who we're talking about. He said that, yeah, he could give those layperson's vows. So yes, that could be something that we do. Rinpoche in the past was hesitant. So maybe this is something we would like to take advantage of. I'll have to talk to him off camera to see if that's something we would do publicly or not. I have no idea. So, you guys know I'm like live thinking and at all times. So don't say, oh, we're going to do this. I have to speak with Rinpoche and make sure that that's something we could do. But Rinpoche just said that he would be fine to give the vow. But speaking of Charlene specifically, how is consciousness defined by the Buddha? What is the essence? Not the Sheba Gitseni Garshine. So the definition of consciousness is that which is clear, meaning it doesn't have a nature. It isn't mad or sad, it's clear. So consciousness is clear and it knows. So it's not described, it doesn't have an essence of form. Form is mutually exclusive with consciousness. When we look at the beginning collected topics, you study these 3 categories of form, consciousness, and non-associated compositional factors. And you begin to be able to categorize things by that. And you find out at that point that consciousness and form are mutually exclusive. Sheba dang zu kiawayan, zu sheba demen duje. The dudra sarp the coin chirwa sheba the long dandra zuyin sheba garian la sheba dan zu kiawayan. Then the sheba so that's it. The definition of consciousness is that which is clear and knowing. It's something that is clear and knows. It isn't form, so it's not described in a sense that it's tangible or that it has shape or size or has shape or color. So form contains color and shapes and so forth. So it doesn't have any of those to it. So its essence is just in the nature of knowing and clarity. So the Sheba Ton Togudu.
Sheba wanted to say you always. Won't be Sheba, age Sheba.
So there are sense consciousness and mental consciousness. So when we look at consciousnesses, we can divide it into eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and tactile consciousness, and then mental consciousness, which is the mental consciousness. So those consciousnesses are sense and mental. And if we look at, okay, what is the definition of consciousness? We'd say that which is clear and knowing. Then the Mikisheva Senigare.
Mikisheva. Dans tout le monde, dans les mois de temps, j'ai c'est Sheba. Mishik Senigare. Dans tout le monde, dans les mois de temps, j'ai Sheba de la Mikisheva.
So it is eye consciousness is that which is powered by sense power to apprehend the zu mipaga. So form source is the object of observation. I could say it's going back a lot of years for me folks here. So form source is the object of observation of the eye consciousness that is empowered by the eye sense power. So it is not, that is of the, it is Seni Yanje Sunan Kale Kale, Rangi Tomo.
Tumu Mayu Dachen, Miwana Teni Chibi Riba, Mishi Tseni.
Dachen Dan Dema Dachen. Object, condition. If Lobsang, if you're right there, just write the definition for me real quick, and I'll get to it if I have to. But I know you just did all this, so it's been like over 20 years since I've looked at Daken, Dan Demagog, Daken, and all of that. So I just don't want to mistranslate it. I know I got most of it in there, but I just want to make sure that the Daken part, is that observed object condition, Daken, or is that Dema Daken? I don't know. All right. Question and answer, you have to bear, anything can go. So if I don't know at that moment, I may know in 5 minutes or remember, but in 5 minutes, you may not be here. Rinpoche, would you please describe how one would know if they are ready for Tantra when there is no one to say you are ready? This is a great question. It is one has to validate with their own insight using the teachings as a measuring stick. Okay, then Rinpoche. 누두 저파나 테파군 then 수굿 소구도 nga 지포 첨보 총로단 딘 셰르싱구도 nga 조그래 칸제 굿 소구도 nga 투도 nga 록좀 셰고나
동원라 데다 동원라 집에 나도 줄려 쳤구나. 예. 되는 것 같아 가지고.
then 세가를 se kanjay gu so se the long rim it's se then the Nepal John se it's se got it nga the nga nyalan che todu it's se got it
집에 중원하다 동원하다 집에 중원도 동원하다 데이터 동원라 집에 나도서 율제소나 되는 가르치고 하는 말은 사제도 말했어.
So Rinpoche is saying, if within your continuum, the teaching shared in common with beings of small capacity, medium capacity, and great capacity specific to the perfection arisen in your continuum, if you have understood, if you understand these well, then you become this vessel that is worthy, because you can't become a Buddha, Rinpoche said, without Tantrayana. Then the say, so this is why at the very last part of the Lam Rim Chemo, the great treatise on the stage of the path to enlightenment, Lama Tsongkhapa put the very littlest amount of Tantra in there, just to show that this leads up to that. So I guess Rinpoche is saying you use the teaching as a mirror. Your measuring stick is the teaching, the mirror of the teaching. Don't laugh, but at this time I've never asked, but have wondered, Jeff, when you say what sounds like lesser, are Rinpoche saying something, what that does, something, what does that mean? Lesso is just like, okay, lesso, yes. It's like a polite way of saying, yeah, I'm paying attention to the things that you're saying, or I understand and can translate what you're saying. It's just affirming that I'm like kind of paying attention and tuned in. But it can also mean, lesso can mean yes also. And the initiation, Rinpoche will say, is this the method? And then we say lesso, which means yes, we believe, we concur, we understand it is. Lots of questions. True or Juyu. Yeah. The lesso don't agarre. Lesso. Yes. Okay, will we be able to purchase books from the center to ensure we have all the correct ones? The center doesn't sell books, but we can, so no. But if you need specific books, you go through the, I'm not an expert on where to get books from, but obviously Amazon and so forth. And when we have, there it is. Thank you. I love it. So yes, the center doesn't have books, but as you can ask about specific books if you want, like week to week before you buy them, and we can, you know, there's a lot of books out there. I get it, and I would have liked to have had guidance on books before I got to a year or two or so, because I read a lot of books. But it's kind of nice because now I know like how you could be really confused by wrong view also. Okay, so the definition is a consciousness which arises in dependence upon, there it is, that's it, the uncommon empowering condition, an I sense power. So thank you. So it's uncommon empowering condition is the I sense power. So that's it. So that's the definition. That is, but Rinpoche said that is clear in knowing. So a consciousness that is that which is clear in knowing, which arises in dependence upon an uncommon empowering conditions and I sense power. Thank you. Thank you, Lobsang Lai. I really appreciate you. Terrence Flynn, does aspiration define capacity, or can a practitioner's aspiration be out of line with their current capacity? If so, that's great. If so, can dedication of virtue for the attainment of Buddhahood be lessened in it? Okay, hold on. All right, that's a little heady, but let's do it. Does aspiration define capacity, or can a practitioner's aspiration be out of line with their current capacity? Well, what you're aspiring to be isn't necessarily what you are. So maybe I see Rinpoche, tandang the chikshena nga jipo chungo, the hakomai, jipo din hakomai. Chikshena nga jipo chungo le mason, the tandang nga tsugeche, tandang nga jipo chungo. The nga jipo chungo lobjong sheson, yene nga jipo chembo, nga sanje shera gugudu. Then hoa garedan, gangisena nga jipo chungo, yene nga sanje shanchuku. Then hoa gare. Then Gemma Dean Dan Chembo Lobjung She Tu got it. So Rinpoche is saying, so whatever virtue it'll take to get to, so you could say, for instance, you'd be if I was a small capacity practitioner, but I wanted to become a Buddha, but I'm really a small practitioner. Rinpoche said, you would dedicate it to becoming a Buddha, and then it would be whatever it takes to get to that, would be how you would arrive there. But you're aspiring to be able to then be able to practice the medium scope and be able to practice the great scope that you may not know about, but it's inferred because in order to become a Buddha, you have to do those things. So does that help? Does that make sense? Then the semche dan nepa jon lobjong chema son yene nga sanje the shanchu rogu hua digurbe. Yes, so you can make those dedications without being at that capacity. So you could have be of small capacity, but dedicate because the ultimate goal is Buddhahood. So, but usually, yes, you know, but if it's yeah, so that's it. So now in the United States, we have to be very careful because some new strains of the coronavirus have come. So because of that, we should really make sure that we engage in prayers of Tara, Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha, and Medicine Buddha, Teata Om Bekenze Bekenze Maha Bekenze Bekenze Ranzo Samagati Soha. Or one, there's two ways to do it, or Teata Om Bekenze Bekenze Maha Bekenze Ranzo Samagati Soha.
Joma nga dishira penshibus, quality tarimas, taraset, quality nabayores, quality tarima. Tutara jijidus, tutara said, jibal chatures, turi non-aldus. So when we especially rely upon Tara's prayer, we see that within Tara's